Hey, welcome back to Scar Bearers. This is Chris DT Gordon. I'm so happy to have you here. I'm joined by my new friend Clinton Young. How are you today, Clinton?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing very well, thank you. And I have to say, I'm a bit nervous and I'm excited to talk with you because, as many of my listeners know, I have started on my professional speaking journey in January of this year, but you've been at it for quite a while. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm an international keynote speaker and I'm a world-class speaker trainer. And a lot of people ask me, like, what do you do? Like, what does that actually mean? Right? We could go into talking about what is a keynote speaker versus what is a platform speaker, versus what is a trainer. Ultimately, that's not the nature of where I want to go right now. What I want to share that I think is going to add the most value is, do you know, Chris, when somebody really wants something really bad and they just, for whatever reason, they believe it's possible, but they don't believe necessarily it's possible for them. Have you ever happened to you? Has that ever happened to you?
I have felt that once or twice in my life, and I know others have as well.
Yeah, and I know that on Scar Bearers, you talk a lot about people that have had challenges, and sometimes people experience failure, sometimes people experience loss, and ultimately, what ends up happening, what I've found in working with the clients that I work with, is that they start to doubt themselves. They start to have fear and allow fear to creep in, and as that fear and doubt creeps in, they ultimately don't create the life that they want. So what I do as a speaker and as a speaker coach or speaker trainer is I enable the courage and the confidence to live your dream life now. And specifically for people that want to become speakers, I enable the courage and confidence to really have people express their unique message, to really feel confident and courageous in expressing their unique message.
So, how would you start that process?
Great question. Great question. So for anyone that wants to become a speaker, we can definitely talk about that. But before we go there, I would love to share with you and with your audience just a little bit about the failure that I experienced. Is it okay if we go there first and how I dug myself out of that?
I think that would be very helpful. Yeah, because we see professionals, at their craft and at the top of their game, but sometimes we don't think about, maybe they've been at the bottom, and maybe they've felt that struggle that we feel that we are dealing with all the time. So please do.
Yeah, so it was 2008, 2009. And if you can just guess what was happening at that time, right? I'm sure your audience
Mhm.
knows that was the financial collapse here in the US and across a lot of the world. And I find myself, Chris, losing my business, losing my credit, and losing my property.
Now, if I may
Okay.
stop you for a second, Clinton,
Yeah.
where were you at professionally at this time?
Okay, it's a great question. So I'll give you a little bit of backstory. I had just moved to California 4 years prior to that for my dream job after graduate school. I went to grad school a little bit late, so I was probably 27 or so when I moved out to Cali. And I had my dream job. I worked for this multinational company. I worked for a company that did intercultural consulting. It sounds really, really sexy, right? And it was really my dream job. But after about a year, it was my dream nightmare, right? I
Hmm.
thought going to grad school was going to get me to be above the corporate bureaucracy, if you will, but really it just put me in charge of it, right? So, and I know it's not all companies are that way, but this particular one was. And I had just become an entrepreneur. I had just had my first 2 years of making six figures, which I know for me was a goal that I had always had in my life. And I had that experience. And then I had a few years where it got a little bit challenging. And it was my early stage entrepreneur, to answer your question directly. That's where I was, early stage entrepreneur. I had a sales and marketing business. I was doing really, really well. And then the economy started crumbling a little bit, but the writing really wasn't on the wall quite yet. And then 2008 happened.
Mm.
And my business just went. Whew. So here I am, literally, confidence is shattered, Chris, like absolutely shattered. And I am in a place where I didn't know what to do. And I've always been somebody who followed my intuition, right? Intuition, if for those of you who don't know, it's like not a logical thinking. It's just a knowingness, that internal knowingness. You know what I'm talking about, Chris?
That gut, right?
Knowingness, that gut feeling, like something is right. I'll give you an example, really brief example. I used to live in Boston, and I was a headhunter. I literally dialed out of a phone book. That was like how I cut my teeth in sales. Not a very sexy job, but did really well at it. And I had this intuition, this inspiration to go and travel overseas and visit. Is actually an ex-girlfriend that was living over in Singapore. And I had no idea why. I had no money. I had no reason to believe that this was a good idea. I just felt it, and I just went. So that's following your intuition. And I'd always been somebody who had trusted that. And before I even knew what it was, I was somebody that just followed my intuition. It always worked out. Kind of this faith, if you will. And I don't mean religious faith. I mean like this just knowingness, this childlike confidence that things are going to work out.
Yep.
So all of a sudden in 2008, 2009, this crash happens. I lose pretty much everything that I owned. By the way, it's 8 months after I got married. Into the family, honey. So I find myself at the microphone. So picture this, Chris. I'm in a seminar, about 200 people all around. I'm at the microphone, and I'm sharing what's going on in my life. I'm lost. I'm confused. And the seminar leader, his name's Chris. His name is also Chris, actually. He looks right at me, and he's like, "Clinton, you're dead inside." And I was just like, ugh. It was like a shot to the heart. But he was right. I was totally dead inside. And it was that day that really started me on my journey to really, I would call it a sort of a spiritual awakening. And again, I'm not trying to get woo-woo on people. I know I live in San Diego, right? I'm trying to get woo-woo on people, but what I'm trying to really express here is that I went inward, right? Suddenly having more meaning in my life was more important than making money. Not that I was all about making money before, but it was definitely important to me. And not that it wasn't important to me now, it still was, but I really had this yearning to have more meaning and more purpose in life. And that really set me on this path. So I don't know if this is resonating with you or if I'm starting to answer your question, but this was the journey that I started to go on. And in April of 2010, 4 months after this devastating loss, my wife and we decided to go to Hawaii to get away. 17 days in Kauai. And ultimately, we're sitting there in this, really, it's a small Craigslist ad property, but the view was like a $5,000 a night view, looking at the Nepali coast, ridiculous, right? Floor to ceiling windows, picture, we're laying in bed, we're watching American Idol. Yes, I watch American Idol from time to time.
We don't judge.
No judgment, right? Because it inspires me, right? I love that warm, tingly feeling you feel when you get moved, touched, or inspired, and I love the power of music to do that. So we're sitting there watching that, and we start reflecting on, this really massive, what most people would call failure that I'd experienced 4 months prior. And we started then looking at what were the times in our life when things were effortless, when things were seamless. And when I say effortless, I don't mean they were necessarily easy, but what I mean is things happened in a sort of momentous occasion. Like, you have a thought and all of a sudden something occurs, like this sort of magical and miracle type experience of life, of ease. It's an experience of ease. It's not easy, but it's an experience of ease. You know what I'm saying? You've probably had experiences like this in your life, right, Chris?
Yeah, now and again. Yep.
Okay. So let me give another example, and it'll really paint the picture. So in grad school, I had this desire and this passion for going overseas. And it was really spurred by that first experience of being overseas. That's what actually led me to wanting to go. That was one of the magic or miracles that happened out of going to Singapore the first time. Was I had this passion for culture, and I wanted to go to grad school. So I'm in grad school, and I knew I was going overseas. I had no idea how. I had no idea why. I had no resources, no money resources, no people resources, but I just said, you know what? I am going overseas. It's happening. It's already done. It's not only happening, it's already done. That's the kind of faith that I'm talking about, right? It's almost like a naivete, and it was naivete for me at the time because I had no idea what faith was. I had no idea what intuition was at the time. I was really more focused on academic growth versus personal growth.
Okay.
Two very different things.
Yeah.
And all I did was I got inspired, right? I got inspired. And I'm going to decode my success formula, if you will, right now through telling this story. And then I'll wrap it up at the end and share kind of the formula for your audience. Ultimately, I got inspired, right? I got so fired up about going overseas, so lit up about it. I was researching everything. I was literally interviewing everybody that had international in their title. You had diversity in your title. You looked like you might not be from America, which I know is hard to do because we're such a melting pot. You had an accent. I was talking to you and I was interviewing you because I was so excited about learning about what they were doing. How can I help you? Right, this is something I call the discovery process that anybody can do, and going to, and interview people and find out how you can add value to their lives. You're going to learn so much. And a little tip, write this down, folks. Ask them, who do you know that I should talk to? Because then that will keep you on your discovery process of now interviewing someone else that you can maybe add value to, and they can add value to you. So I'm on this massive discovery process in grad school. I'm so inspired. I have absolute faith that it's already done. No evidence, but total faith and total belief that it was possible. Not only was it possible for other people, but I'm connecting with and surrounding myself with other people that are already doing it. Exchange students that are in my school, asking, how did you do it, right? Surrounding myself. So now my belief is going up as well.
Nice.
And I just took massive action, took absolute massive action. And like I said, spoke to all these, literally over 100 interviews, and magic and miracles occurred. All of a sudden, I get introduced to a alumni that lived in Brazil, that was from Brazil a few years before me. 6 months later, Chris, I find myself spending the entire summer in Brazil. Oh. And I find myself in the home of the Vice Minister of Agriculture of Brazil. Okay? Living in his fancy home. And I'm not saying that to say it does sound very fancy, right? I was only there for like a month, and then I literally slept in a laundry room in a one-bedroom apartment of a couple that had a small infant, and I slept in their laundry room for another couple weeks, and I slept in this really dirty motel for another about month while I lived there. I saw the full spectrum of the culture and society. And but the reason why I share that story is because that was not anywhere in the curriculum, right? That was nowhere in even my mind's eye of how that was going to work out. But I was inspired, and here's the formula, right? So I'd write this down if you're listening out there. Inspiration, right? Being clear about what you're inspired about, what fires you up, what gets you excited, what inspires you, plus faith. A faith with like a knowingness and a belief that it's possible, and a belief that it's already done, plus action. We have to take action. We can't just sit around and meditate. And I love meditation, but we can't just sit around and meditate and think positive thoughts and get inspired and even have belief and faith. We have to take action. We have to get out there and talk to people and bump into the stimulus, if you will, the stimuli, and allow the universe or God or whatever you call it, just your environment, to give you clues. And trust me, your intuition will pick up on the right clues because you're clear about what inspires you. You have faith and belief that it's possible, and you're in action. And I'll tell you what, magic and miracles will open up for you. And just to button up that story, Chris, what happened from there is, if I thought I could do it once, I did it once. I came back, I did it again. I was like, if I can do that once, I can do it again. Next summer, I find myself working at the U.S. Embassy in Singapore for an entire summer, traveling all through Southeast Asia. And then I came back and continued to do this process. And I had a mentor. Be careful who you surround yourself with. I had a mentor who literally was telling me, Clinton, what are you doing? You're studying cultural adjustment and emotional intelligence. How are you going to combine those? Like, what are you going to do with that? Fast forward after graduation, I interviewed so many people, and I started interviewing companies and executives in different companies that had these roles that are in international companies. I knew I wanted to do something international or something with international business. Before you know it, I find myself moving from Massachusetts to Orange County, California, to work for the largest intercultural consulting services division of the largest relocation company in the world that relocates companies like Amazon, Cisco, Microsoft, when they're doing mergers and acquisitions or starting a new plant in China. I headed up that whole division on the West Coast. I didn't even know that that type of work existed when I started. And that's the kind of magic and miracles that happen when we experience some sort of failure or challenge and we say, you know what, I've got to get inspired. I've got to find a way to get inspired. I got to have faith that it's possible, belief that it's already done, and then just take action. Magic and miracle.
So I'm just going to write down, I wrote down the formula, so I want to make sure I have it right here. So inspiration plus faith plus action equals miracle.
Magic and miracles, yes. And it's faith and belief.
Yes.
Because they are two different things. And I've used that, Chris, I've used that success formula that I didn't like make that up, right? That's always been there. I just decoded that from my experiences of success. I just shared one of them, and you know there are others, and my wife shared some. That's what was distilled out of it as a formula that is tried and true. It's proven, and it works. And it's worked in a lot of areas of my life, and it can work in your life as well, and your audience members as well.
You know, as I ruminate on my own experience, I can see that, you know, playing out, how, you know, I was inspired by the kindness of others, and, you know, how I decided to have faith in my abilities to rebound and while in the hospital. And then I started taking action, and lo and behold, here I am doing the things I'm doing now. So I can attest to that formula being a successful one.
Yeah.
So.
And I'd love to share one more thing about being in that challenging place, right? If you're in that place of either, in my experience, it was failure. Some of your listeners, it might be health issues. Some of your listeners, it might be a business challenge or a marriage challenge or a loss in the family, right? We all have different kinds of challenges. And it's important to know that I'm not making light of anyone's challenge and where you might be at right now, because I know it's hard to go from absolute failure to I'm inspired, right? It just doesn't happen that way. It doesn't happen that way. There's baby steps. And there's one thing I want to share with your audience that I think will be impactful to give them just a gift or a tip, I should say, to how to like get yourself crawling up out of that hole, if you will, or just get you to stand up from getting knocked down. Okay. And that is to really, like I pointed to this earlier when I said, be careful of who you surround yourself with. One of my mentors, Justin, said a long time ago to me, he said, Clinton, we're a product of the books we read and the people we hang out with, right? We're a product of the books we read and the people we hang out with. And there's this concept called the power of five, right? And the power of five states that, and I'm going to use an example of money, but the power of five states that we are really a product of the five people we hang out with most, right? And if we look at money, it's just an easy thing to measure, right? If we look at how much does each one of us make, the five closest friends we hang out with, and add it all up and get an average, divide by five, right? Get an average. The power of five states that we will likely make within about 5% of that average of the five closest people we hang out with. And that's something with money. So this works though with every area of your life, right? Your network determines your net worth, right? But your network really determines everything. The people you hang out with, if you're experiencing challenge, you're hanging out with the right guy with Chris Gordon, right? You're hanging out with people that are helping people overcome these challenges. You're feeding your mind with not necessarily a book, but with a podcast of information that he shares with all of his guests that can help you up level yourself, up level your beliefs, up level wherever you're at. But you're probably not going to go from 0 to hero in a day. I didn't go from failure, right, laying in bed in Hawaii to international keynote speaker in a day. It doesn't happen that way. But a way that we can start to incrementally raise our vibration and raise our thoughts and raise our actions and raise, therefore, our results is start to surround ourselves with higher quality people, people that, again, not that the people you're hanging out with are not high quality, right? But people that are being the kind of person you want to become. They're doing the kind of things you want to do. They're having the kind of experiences you want to have. They're making the kind of impact you want to make in the world. Start surrounding yourself with people that are 5, 10, 15 steps ahead of you, and then find those mentors and those coaches that are 5,000 steps ahead of you, right? And model them.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice, Clinton. Now, say if someone were to want to implement this, but maybe they are either shy or just have no idea how to start on this journey, how could they find those people with whom they should connect?
So that's a great question. So everybody has a different personality type. Everybody has certain propensities. And I know there are books that are coming out now that are saying personality types are crap, but we all have certain level of comfortability, right? Mm-hmm. And what I say is try to find people that are similar to you that you can connect with, but also find those people that are maybe opposite to you that you can learn from and that you can leverage, right? Some things that I might be really good at, somebody else might not be very good at. Something that they're very good at, I might be terrible at. And it's because it's not in what I like to call my flow or zone of genius, right? Where it gives me life, it gives me energy. So I always say that, if we're shy, if we're somebody that wants to meet people, but maybe we don't quite know where to start, do it in a way that works for your gifts and your talents. If you're great at networking online and maybe you don't like getting on the phone or going out and meeting people in person, well, network with people on social media, right? I always say, like, to find a mentor, to find people that you want them to be able to support you. First, never lead with what you need. That's a good quotable remark right there for your audience to write down. Never lead with what you need. Lead with what you can provide of value to them, right? So I'm going to give you an example. I used to work with this CEO. I did some speaking for him, and I helped him build his organization in various capacities. And I met somebody that he met, and it was a mutual contact. I knew this guy. And he wanted to know the CEO, and he wanted to go through me. And I was like, you're pretty creative. Why don't you see what you can do? And this is what he did. It was so creative. He went online on Facebook. You can find out a lot about people just going on Facebook or LinkedIn. He found out that he just had a new son, his first child. And he found a really cute picture of him and his son holding his baby. And what he did was he got that picture and he had it embossed on an iPhone. He knew that the guy had an iPhone at the time, and it was, a certain year. So he guessed that it was an iPhone 5 or iPhone 6 at the time. And he literally got it embossed on the iPhone case and he mailed it to the office. And he said, "Hey, I thought you would enjoy this," and he made some quippy remark about getting in touch because it was for his phone and using his phone. And here's my number if you want to give me a call, something like that. And this guy was a pretty well-networked person. And he opened the door. And of course, he ended with, "Let me know if there's anything I can do for you to forward your vision." Something like that, right? So find ways that you can build bridges, build rapport with those people that you want to connect with, and find ways you can add value to them. And then reach out. Be bold. Be courageous.
Excellent. That's fantastic advice. Thank you for sharing that. So where are you at now? What's going on with you? I know we're all pivoting with this pandemic. What are you up to these days?
So I love that you asked that because, as a speaker, I'm not doing a lot of speaking out on audiences right now, where in the past I was speaking at least once a week all over the world. And what I've been doing now is focusing a lot actually on podcasts. I've done about 6 podcasts in the last week and a half, and I have 7 more scheduled in the next probably week and a half or so. And, I'm also helping other speakers become world-class speakers. That's another element of my business. So I'm working on programs and helping people do that.
Excellent. So say if someone, maybe someone bald with a goatee, were to come ask you, hey, how does one become a world-class speaker? How could they reach you and work with you?
Okay, that's another great question. I want to give you a couple things you can do right away. And I'm going to give a little bit of a framework first, my framework for learning, because then you'll have a place to compartmentalize some of the things that I share. Is that fair enough?
That sounds great.
So anyone out there, if you've ever thought about being a speaker, or maybe you're just an entrepreneur, or maybe you have a job, but you feel like you have a message. Maybe you have a cause or a mission that you want to forward. Maybe you never want to get paid to speak, and that's not your objective, or you don't want to speak to a 1,000-person audience, but you want to be impactful when you do communicate. We all want to be impactful. In fact, Warren Buffett says that public speaking is the #1 skill to learn in today's economy. The #1 skill. He goes on to say that learning how to become effective as a speaker will increase your earning potential by 50%, by at least 50%. So if that's not motivation enough, whether you want to be a speaker or not, become effective as a speaker. Okay, so what do I mean by world class? This is what I mean. I have 3 different definitions for world class. World class doesn't mean speaking all around the world. Doesn't mean that at all. You don't even have to necessarily ever speak on a stage. But what it means is when you speak, you impact a high percentage of the audience. As a professional keynote speaker, I know for a fact that unfortunately, it's virtually impossible to impact 100% of an audience. Not 100% of the people that even listen to this podcast episode today are going to be like, that's totally for me. There's going to be some people that are like, you know what, I'll check in tomorrow. And that's fine. You're never going to please 100% of the audience or impact them. But you can impact 98%, 99%, 90%. You want to impact as high of the percentage of the room as possible. So world class means becoming effective, at least the level of effective, at understanding psychology, at understanding the human condition, at understanding that as soon as you open your mouth, whether you're in a networking experience online or in person, that other person has immediately a 40% wall of resistance in front of you. And just to give a little bit of credibility, I have a psychology bachelor's degree. I have a master's degree in organizational psychology, and I've been geeking out on and studying neuroscience for like the last 15 years. So I'm not the foremost expert, Chris, but I know a little bit more than the average person, right? Yep. So there's immediately this 40% wall of resistance. Even if you like somebody, it's immediately there. Even if you think you're going to like somebody. And so our job as a communicator is to understand that psychology you don't have to be an expert, but at a level high enough to be able to break down that barrier, or what I like to say, instead of break down, is just lower that barrier, right? And we can do that very simply by building rapport. By, you find somebody on LinkedIn you want to connect with, which is a form of speaking, right? I'm trying to bring this down to all levels, professional speakers, and then people that just want to connect and find a mentor or find people they can connect with. You read something on an influential person on LinkedIn, and you've noticed, wow, they have puppies. They really like dogs. They love their dog, Chloe or Cliff or whatever. Send them a little quippy remark about a dog or something that you love about a dog, or a funny meme, right? Don't go crazy with the cat videos unless you know they're a real big cat person and you know their personality, then rock it, right? Or if you know they're reading books on spiritual growth or on business, or maybe living a more adventurous life, say, hey, you know what? I just read this book, 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. It's amazing. I think you'll love it. The biggest thing I got out of it was this, and it really relates to what I saw in your video that I just saw you put on YouTube, right? Totally relevant, and shows that you actually made a connection with them. That is called rapport. And I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
That's rapport, right? So that's just one way, an example of lowering that wall of resistance. Well, there are thousands of ways to do this from stage. There are thousands of ways to do this on video. There are thousands of ways to do this on a podcast, right? One of the ways is to speak to, and I'm going to stop here because I'm starting to get into teacher mode. Mm-hmm. I don't want to teach too much here because I don't want to dominate the podcast. I know this is your podcast.
No worries. You're the guest. This is your stage.
So one of the ways is to really identify with their pain. So anyone on this audience that had ever had a financial pain and ever wanted to become a speaker, well, that's obviously a bullseye that I'm going to be speaking directly to their pain. Anyone that's ever had really any failure or pain and they want to overcome it, and they've always been looking for a process, they're going to identify. So as a speaker, when you can say their pain right out of the gate, and it's easier to do this when you know your audience really, really well, and you know exactly who you're speaking to, and that's why I was asking you those rapport building questions when we first got on before we went live, right? To find out more about the pain of the audience. As a professional speaker, that is your number one thing to do. You have to understand the pain of the audience, and then you have to connect what it is that you do to that pain of the audience, right? So that's one of the first things we need to do to become world-class is really be able to impact the audience by understanding the human condition, understanding psychology. So that's the first one. You got that one, right?
All right.
Okay, we're going to move into number two. To become is this good stuff?
No, this is fantastic.
Awesome. Give a little mini masterclass for anyone that's ever wanted to be influential on a microphone. And by the way, he or she who holds the microphone always wins. Always wins. Another little soundbite I love to say, he or she who holds the microphone always wins. And that could be financially, that could mean influentially, impact, leadership, right? Always, they're the ones holding the microphone. 9.9 out of 10, times out of 10. Okay, the other definition of world-class is, and really how, this is more gets into how we become world-class. Okay, we need to have, first and foremost, we need to have an awareness. We need to have an awareness of where we are right now and where we want to go. That's coaching 101. Where are you right now, and where do you want to go? And only until you know where you are right now and where you want to go are you then able to see what is in between where you are now and where you want to go. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, exactly. It's a map. Where are you now? Where do you want to go? So that's our awareness. And we have to continue to develop awareness. And I'm going to give you 3 master tips in a minute around accelerating your awareness. So if I don't say it, remind me, accelerated awareness techniques are coming for you in a moment. So we need to increase our awareness, and then we need to get guidance. We need to get guidance. That's why it's so important to surround ourselves with people that are 5, 10, 15 steps ahead of wherever we want to go. Find the people that have already been on the path. You do not need to recreate the wheel. I always say model people. What do I mean by that, Chris? I mean, copy them. Copy them, right? In school, they call it cheating. In the real world, they call it being smart, right? Do not recreate the wheel. Model people, right? Model people. So we have to get that guidance by the people we surround ourselves with, and then the mentors, right? The coaches. We've got to be willing to hire a coach that can help us get to our destination, because they're going to accelerate that level of awareness. They're going to give us the guidance. And most importantly, the third step, it's awareness, guidance, and then correction. If you just visualize a pyramid or write it down on your piece of paper right now, and the bottom level is awareness, the middle level is guidance, the top level is correction. And guess what happens when you get corrected? Now you know that you're going in the wrong direction. It's like the story of I believe the first trip to the moon. How much of the time do you think that spaceship was on target going directly towards the moon, Chris? What would you guess if you had to guess a percentage?
Ooh.
That they're on target.
They're on target and heading straight for the moon?
How much?
I would say maybe 25%.
And a lot of people say exactly that number. Some people say 80%. It's 3% of the time.
Ooh.
Because all the other time they were doing a minor correction to the left, a minor correction to the right, a minor correction to the left, a big correction to the right. So we have to be okay with the unknown, the uncertainty, whenever we do something big in life, and we have to be willing to get guidance and take the corrections. And if you're drawing that on your piece of paper, it's awareness on the bottom, guidance in the middle, correction at the top, and that doesn't lead you right to world class. It doesn't. Guess where you go after correction? You go back down to awareness. Now you have a higher level of awareness, and you take more action, so you get more guidance, and then you get more correction. And it's this loop going up the pyramid and back down, up the pyramid, back down. And that leads you.
That's what I have right here.
Yes, and that's what leads you to world class. I'm going to give you one more example of this, and then I'm going to give you the accelerated awareness techniques.
Okay.
So the way that we can do this, and this is to answer your question directly, how do we become world class? We need to, if we truly want to become world class, that's why I only work with people that are like, no kidding. They're either aspiring motivational speakers and they're so hungry to grow. They're so ready for it. They so want it right now. Or they're an entrepreneur with a message that is equally as hungry. I don't work with people that are like, I just want to get better. Like, you can learn from my course and learn from what I'm sharing with you right now, and you will get way better. You will develop world-class principles. In fact, I'm going to give your audience at the end of this, anyone who sticks around to the end, I'm going to give them actually my top 7 world-class speaker principles. Would that be cool?
That'd be great.
I'm going to give them to you. Literally, I've invested literally about over $10,000 just to accumulate all of these top 7 principles. I'm going to give them to your audience for free.
That's fantastic.
Okay? But I only work with one-on-one people that are like so hungry, so ready. They've got desire, they've got passion, they've got commitment to becoming world class in the definitions we just described. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
And to become world class, we have to think like an Olympian. We have to think like a professional, like fighter pilot, someone that's the best of the best. And we have to be doing things that they're doing. And one of the things they're doing is they're accelerating their awareness. So I'm going to give you right now 3 acceleration awareness techniques that are going to allow you to become a world-class speaker. Okay? The first one is you've got to get repetitions. You've got to be getting the reps in the gym. If you think of, just visualize, picture yourself in the gym and you're doing those bicep curls. You're doing those bicep curls. You do not get world class at speaking by watching a video. It doesn't happen. You don't get world class by listening to this podcast. You can get ideas to start to accelerate your awareness, but you've got to go out and do the reps. You've got to get on stages. You've got to get on podcasts. And that's exactly what I help my clients do. I help them get on stages, help them get on podcasts. I help them get the reps, because without the reps, you don't have anything.
Yep.
The reps is what starts it all. Now, with these reps, you're going to have new awareness. Remember the pyramid. You're going to, every time you have another rep, you're going to have an awareness of, wow, the audience really responded to that joke I told. The audience really responded to that story I told, or the fact that I was telling stories, which is so vitally important, versus just spewing a bunch of facts. And you're going to have a new awareness. Okay? And then you've got to have the courage to implement the new things that you learn, especially when you have that coach giving you guidance, giving you correction. So you've got to then have awareness. And as you have awareness, you got to then have the courage. So we could almost create a whole duplicative pyramid here where awareness is on the bottom, and then you have courage to implement. You have courage to implement. And then that raises, the third level is confidence at the top. So it's awareness at the bottom, courage in the middle to implement, and then confidence at the top. And guess where you go when you have that confidence? You don't go right to world class. You go back down to what?
Those reps.
Back down to awareness. And awareness, courage, confidence. So we've got to get the reps. That's the number 1 awareness technique, the accelerated awareness technique. Maybe not the number 1, but it's number 1 in this list. Number 2, we've got to film ourselves speaking. What do Olympians do? What do NFL, National Football League players do? What do MLS soccer players do? They watch the game tape, don't they, Chris? I don't know if any of your viewers or listeners have ever played sports professionally. Even in high school these days, they're so competitive. To get the competitive advantage, to become world-class, to become better, to accelerate your growth, you got to watch yourself on film. And I know that might be awkward for some people, but you got to do it. And you got to also watch the film of others, people that you admire, people that you respect, people that are doing the things you want to do and being the kind of person you want to become. Right now, watch them on tape. So you got to do that. That's going to accelerate your awareness. And the best way to do that is to watch that with your coach, because they're going to see things that you don't see. They're going to see bad habits before you develop a bad habit. And one of the things I like to help my clients see are those like superpowers, if you will. Those things that are like, it's your superpower and you don't even know it type of thing. And you're not leveraging it as a speaker or as a communicator. So that's number 2, is really watching the film and committing to that. And there's so many other valuable uses for that. Obviously, marketing purposes, right? Training, turning it into a product if you decide to do that down the road. So much value in that. And credibility of you speaking, getting that out on social media.
Yeah.
You become a world-class speaker by first declaring yourself a professional speaker, showing proof of you speaking out there all around. So again, I go into this in my class and also in the thing I'm going to provide. I give a lot of information for free. And then the third thing is, and I've alluded to this several times. In fact, I've done more than allude to it. I've basically said, do this. Hire a coach. Hire somebody in whatever domain is important to you. If you want to be an Olympian, who do you think, first you should start to hang out with?
I would say people who are Olympians are really good at that sport.
Absolutely. Olympic athletes or people at the top of their game, or triathletes. You ever want to run a marathon, you should probably hang out with at least people that are jogging on weekends. You don't have to necessarily go right to marathon runners if you're not comfortable. Surround yourself with those people, but then find the mentors and hire the coaches that are 5,000 steps ahead of you that can help you see what you cannot see, even if you're putting in the reps, even if you are watching the game film, even if you have the courage to take action and you're developing more and more confidence, you're not going to see everything until you hire a coach. So that's what I did. It's exactly what I did.
That's fantastic. You know, that last point, I was just thinking, I was thinking of the analogy of climbing. And, you know, when people climb Everest, you know, they don't look for someone who's just a few steps ahead of them. They go to the Sherpa, you know, to help them guide them up the mountain, because they see what that climber doesn't see.
Yes.
And so
they have the ability to sort of see around the corner, if you will, because guess why? They've already been around the corner. Mm-hmm. They know what's on the other side of the corner.
Yes.
You know,
that's fantastic. So we have, just to make sure I have it right, we have accelerating the awareness is taking those reps, and then you watch the game tapes, and then you hire that coach, that person who can see what you can't see.
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent.
And what that allows you to do is it allows you to have the awareness, that accelerated level of awareness, which allows you to have even more courage and take more steps and cover more ground and try new things from stage or from the microphone or in one-on-one conversations. And it levels up your confidence so quickly, and you become proficient, right? You become good at speaking, and then you become great at speaking, and then you become world class at speaking. And again, that means your true level of impact that's in your heart is really actually achieved in the audience.
That's fantastic. No, I just love these tips that you gave us. I really appreciate that, Clinton. Now, I don't mean to put you on the spot a little bit here, but you said something about a 7-step process or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's basically the top 7 principles to becoming a world-class speaker. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because it leads me to one more area. Anyone that really is serious, I'm going to give you literally one of these tips I paid $5,000 to get. Just one of them.
Okay.
Just one of them. I paid $5,000 to one of my coaches to get. One of them. And it's allowed me to make tens of thousands of dollars. And again, it's not all about money. If you're just about being an impactful speaker, this is what I'd say to that same exact one tip that I paid $5,000. It's allowed me to really become world class, but it's allowed me to impact thousands of people all around the world because I've got really good at that one tip, one principle. You learn one principle, it can change your reality, and it certainly can change your level of impact. So I want to give to you all 7, and I actually have a bonus 8th that I threw in there as well.
Okay.
Of my top 8 principles to becoming world class. I'm going to do that in 1 second. Before I do that, I want to share one more thing about world class, because it's not just about getting the tips, right? It's not just about getting the speaking tips. If you were to draw sort of a 3 circles that all connect in the middle, kind of like almost like the Olympics symbol, but that's fine.
Like a Venn diagram?
A Venn diagram. That's exactly the word I was looking for. Thank you.
Sure.
And if you were to draw and write in one of them speaking skills, that's everything that I'm going to give you. And it's, obviously you're going to want to get more awareness and more correction and guidance and coaching around it. But I'm going to give you the top 7. It's going to blow your mind. If you just do those top 7, you will immediately, and put in the reps and try all of them, you will immediately have more courage. You'll immediately have more confidence, and you will be on your road to becoming world class. I'm a firm believer that though, if you don't do the game tape as well and you don't hire a coach, you will never be world class. You'll get really good at speaking though. And I'm going to give that to you. And I keep cliffhanging it. So I'm just going to give you the domain right now. And then I'm going to go back to what I was going to say. It's www.worldclassspeakertips.com. So again, it is worldclassspeakertips.com.
Okay.
Put in your email there and your name, and I will directly send you immediately my top 7 with the bonus 8 speaker principles for you to become a world-class speaker.
All right.
Now, I'm going to go back to what I was sharing.
Okay.
World-class speaker tips, the speaker principles, is only one circle on that Venn diagram, right? The other 2 circles I want to give to you right now as well. And this is so vitally important. I don't care if you become a speaker or really anything in your life. These other 2 things are so vitally important. You could fill in speaker tips in that first circle with cooking tips, with coaching tips, with reading tips, whatever it is, whatever your profession is. Reading doesn't make sense, but whatever your profession is, dentistry tips, these other 2 are equally, if not more important. And that is, write these down. You have to be authentic. You have to bring a level of authenticity to your speaking. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is we need to go from our head to our heart, right? As a speaker, by the way, if you're ever nervous, anyone out there ever nervous when you speak? Chris, you ever nervous before you speak?
Yes, only always.
Yes.
Only always.
Only always, exactly. I've spoken thousands of times, thousands of stages. I'm nervous every single dang time I get on stage. Every single time. It doesn't go away. That's the bad news. Mm-hmm. The good news is we learn how to transmute that energy into passion, into inspiration, into care, into impact. And the way we do that, I'm going to give you the key right now, is we literally visualize ourselves, no kidding, going out of our body, going over to the audience, and going into the body of the audience. And if you don't want to visualize that, you don't have to, but you mainly have to just shift your concern from you to your audience. Shift your concern from, it's not all about me. It's not all about how I'm going to look. It's not all about how I'm going to come across or how much money I'm going to make. Or it's not even about the impact I'm going to make, because that's still about me. It's about the pain that that person in your audience is, or one of your listeners is experiencing. It's about how you're able to connect to that pain because you understand and you care about that pain. You're shifting the concern to the audience. Does that make sense?
So it's like you're putting the spotlight on them instead of yourself.
1,000%. Absolutely. You're going out of your head into your heart, shifting your concern to your audience and putting the spotlight on them. 1,000%. So that's one of those circles. Speaking skills is just 1/3. Authenticity, so important. That's another 1/3. And another 1/3, it really speaks directly to what I just said, a portion of what I just said about authenticity, and that is vulnerability. Vulnerability. We've got to connect with the pain of the audience. And that is when they know that you got their back, that you're in this to make an impact for them. And really, people, I love this quote by Maya Angelou, people don't remember what you say, people don't remember what you do, but people always remember how you make them feel. Period. That's a fact. People don't remember what you say, they don't remember what you do, but they always remember how you make them feel. So connect with the pain of the audience, make sure that they understand that you get it. And like the first I teach people how to do this in the first 30 seconds. Aspiring speakers, you can make an audience laugh and connect with their pain in 30 seconds. I'm telling you, and that's what you want to do. That's when you know that they're on your side, and that barrier of resistance that I talked about earlier, the 40% barrier, it goes down to 30 or 20. And you continue to do that. And I teach my students how to do that, how to continually drop that barrier until the end of that speech or that podcast or that video session, that thing is gone. That thing is gone. And now they're going on a ride with you. You take them on a journey with you, and it's like you're not even the leader anymore. It's like they're the leader of their own journey. You're just the guide. Mm-hmm. You're just showing them the way. That's how you make an impact with an audience. And that's how you become a world-class speaker.
Well, wow. Clinton, I am just overwhelmed by by all the great information you gave me. I have all kinds of notes here, as you can see. And so I thank you so much for all this knowledge. Where could people find you? Where can they reach out to connect with you and maybe see what other information you can give them?
Thank you for asking, Chris. The best way is worldclassspeakertips.com. You will get that all 7 plus the bonus 8th world-class speaking principles for free. And during COVID, I actually, that will lead you to my course. I have a course right now. I'm rebuilding and adding on a whole massive arm to it. It's not even available to the public.
Okay.
But right now, my course that will lead you, after you opt into the tips, it's going to send you the tips immediately for free. And then you'll have an opportunity to learn about my course. It's normally a decent amount, and it's way discounted during COVID. They can learn about that. They can get more coaching from me through that, or they can just reach out to me on social media. Be happy to have a conversation with anybody if they think that I can help them. But bottom line is, get the tips for free right now. World-class speaker tips. That is the best place.com is the best place to connect with me and get value from me right out of the gate for free.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you. And my last question is the question my audience always likes to learn the answer to. What is your favorite dinosaur?
I knew you were going to ask because I listened to a few of your episodes. Love it. Okay, so I thought about this for a while. And at first I was like, I want to be a raptor because they're cool and they're a little mean though. That's why I kind of shied away. But they're like cool. They're agile. They're fast. They're like, they can jump and they're not huge. So they're still pretty nimble. But then I was like, you know what? It's cool to be nimble and agile, but like they seem a little too aggro and a little too aggressive. I kind of like the brontosaurus because they're just kind of chilling. They can see everything that's going around because they got that long neck. I kind of got a long torso as well. You can't see me because we're on a podcast right now, but I'm 6'1", and I really resonated with the brontosaurus. I know it's a goofy question. It's kind of a goofy answer.
Yep.
But I feel like they're chill. They're just kind of in the flow. They're herbivores. They're eating their plants, and they're just kind of hanging out. And so I chose the brontosaurus. They seem like the coolest dinosaur out there.
That's a good choice. Whatever you choose, you choose. You could, some people, kind of fit both molds. And so you could be a Bronto Raptor.
I kind of love that, actually, and I'm stealing
Yeah.
that from you right now. That is mine now, Bronto Raptor,
All
because
right.
I do feel like I'm both. Yes, that's
Yeah.
great. Brilliant.
And both sides serve different purposes. And so,
They
I
do.
think that's, a well-rounded person would be that.
That's great. I love
So,
that.
well, Clinton, it's been an honor and a privilege to speak with you today. Thank you for joining us. And please do keep doing well and keep doing good in the world.
Thank you. And I'd just like to leave one last message for your audience. I would just like to say, think big, say yes, and take action. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Clinton. I certainly did. And full disclosure, I just finished his speaker course called worldclassspeakercourse.com, and I gained some fantastic insight that will help me level up my speaking game. However, if you are looking to just gain a few tips for free, Clinton asked me to share this with you. He would like you to go to worldclassspeakertips.com so you can gain 7 free speaking tips. You can also find out what he has going on as a speaker at clintonyoung.com. And if you want to join the Speaker Posse, you can find that on Facebook or go to the speakerposse.com website. As always, I humbly ask you to like this episode, subscribe, rate this episode, and just let me know any thoughts that you might have. If you are looking to find out what I have going on as a speaker, you can look up my website at chrisdtgordon.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube at Chris DT Gordon. And check out the Scar Bearers podcast. Thanks a lot for joining me. As always, please have a great day. And remember to pass on perfection and go for greatness.